Gentlemen, welcome. Looks a bit like the surface of the moon where we're sitting at the moment. Tell us what you were just doing over there, sliding around in lovely Ferraris.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We did some filming for Shell,
Yeah.
which is a very valued partner of Scuderia Ferrari that is helping us on track. And we of course do quite a few events for them throughout the year. But that was a fun one because we got to drive two amazing cars.
Yeah, you enjoyed that, Carlos?
Two 296 Ferraris and playing around, even if obviously filming is part of our job, when you still get to drive a car and play around with your teammate and do a bit of drifting here and there, it's always more enjoyable.
Tell us about the pre-season testing. All we want to hear is that you're going to challenge Max Verstappen and Red Bull. How's it looking?
We wish. I think that is our biggest target. I think it's a very ambitious target to come and hit the ground running and challenge Max, Checo and Red Bull, for the win in Bahrain. It's going to be difficult because they looked very, very strong in winter because we're in Bahrain testing. But we're confident we've done our homework correctly. We have a stronger package this year, hopefully. Whether this package is enough to challenge them or not, only the next race will tell.
What does that mean, Charles? A stronger package, the car is doing more what you want. What does that really translate to behind the steering wheel?
I think it changes every year. For this year, we focused especially on the drivability of the car. I remember last year we got here, Carlos and I, after many laps on the simulator where the car already seemed to be very, very difficult to drive. But we got here and it was very windy, and straight away we understood that the car was going to be extremely difficult to drive, because whenever you will get the wind from another direction, which is obviously the case because we are going around in circles, the car is just behaving completely differently, and it makes it very, very difficult to anticipate what you are going to get into a corner. We've worked last year, but obviously the amount of development you can do within a year is quite limited. So that was the biggest point we wanted to improve for this year, because the peak performance was good. Sometimes in qualifying we were very close to Red Bull. However, whenever you put tire degradation and when the car is going a little bit off the ideal balance, then we will struggle a lot. So we put a lot of effort, and straight from the first lap this year, it felt like a better car to drive. And we shouldn't obviously mix competitiveness and drivability, because sometimes a car can be very easy to drive, but then you can be quite far ahead the leaders, which at the moment it's Red Bull, but we feel like we've done a good step forward.
How does that feel in the car? Because we look at the cars on the TV or when I'm alongside the track, they look glued to the track largely, to be honest. So, with your backside and your hands and that and your eyes in the car, is it much of a movement when you think this is not good enough?
Yeah, I think from the outside, it always tends to look easy on TV, no? All the cars tend to look super stable, super stick to the floor, but you always try to set up the car and try to drive it on the limit of that oversteer or entry instability, because obviously the more front you put in the car, the quicker you go, no? But in reality, it's a lot more on the limit. It's your every corner a bit like this, from losing the rear or having a bit too much understeer, and it's about trying to find the right balance with these ground-fed cars that on top of that they're running very stiff, as you guys know, which also makes every bump, every surface on the road very noticeable for the driver. So making a car that gives you confidence with this new generation of cars is actually very tricky, because you're always jumping around a bit and you always try to have them a bit on the limit of the oversteer.
When we see the car sparking and hitting the ground, is that going up through your spine and through your teeth? Can you feel it so much inside?
It does, but I think this is a very personal thing, and I think you are probably speaking to the worst person to comment on that, because I am the least sensitive to any kind of bottoming or curb riding or whatsoever. I've never been really affected by it, whether it's a very stiff car or whether we are actually touching the floor, or even when there was the bouncing. I would watch the outside videos of the car just jumping around, and I remember we had a meeting, and I will not feel this kind of thing. I mean, I obviously knew that there was something not quite right, but to me that was
You're in another zone.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's very strange. I am very sensitive. I think it depends on drivers. Some are very sensitive to the balance of the car or to the roll stiffness of the car. I am more sensitive to the roll stiffness of the car, how much the car rolls, compared to this vertical.
The vertical stiffness.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think there's enough testing? I mean, Fernando, your dear friend, says, look, other sports, you go and practice all the time. Why do we only get 1.5 days each?
I heard an idea the other day that made me think about it. I think now that there's a budget cap limit, I think the team should be able to push whether you want to spend that money in simulator testing and develop in your own simulator to run as many hours as you want in the simulator, or you want to spend it in testing. And as long as there's a budget cap that limits how much you spend, me personally as a driver, I would always choose testing. I would always choose a good test track, and I would, especially before the season starts, get a good understanding of the car, scan it up and down in conditions that are maybe a bit easier than Bahrain, where the track temperature goes up and down during the day a lot. And me personally, I don't think there is enough time in the car before the first race. Then once the race season starts, I do 100% agree. With a 24 race calendar, you cannot go testing. You need time off for the mechanics, for the drivers, for the engineers. But before the season starts, I would rather spend more days in the car and less in the simulator, if I'm honest.
You've been around Ferrari quite a few years now. Fred Vasseur's coming along. Do you see the team developing, improving, the car, the strategy, the whole thing?
Oh, for sure. I think there's been a lot of progress since Fred arrives. He has a very clear vision of what he wants to achieve with Ferrari. He's got very ambitious target, but that is exactly how it should be whenever you get into a team like Ferrari, because we've got everything to do well. Now we just need to structure everything in order to win a world championship as soon as possible. But as I said, he has a very clear idea of what he wants to do with the team. He's already starting to give his vision and the way he wants to work. And I think we've already seen the benefits of it in the second part of last year. And now our target is to start on the good momentum we finished the last year and to do other steps forward in hopefully fighting for the title as soon as possible and to put a bit more of a challenge to the Red Bulls that for now are quite a bit ahead.
Carlos, in 1992 in Hungary, an Italian photographer, a very well known one, came up to me and told me that I wasn't driving for Benetton the following year, that Patrese had my drive, which I found quite a shocking way to find out, but at least it was halfway through the season. You're starting this season in the most unusual position, knowing that Lewis is incoming. Tell us about your mentality. How are you going to approach this year?
For me, this year is a lot simpler than I think what it looks for from the outside. I have 1 year left with Ferrari, 2024. It means I can focus purely and only in 2024 with them, and extract the maximum performance out of this year's package, this year's engineers, this year's mentality of the team, and focus solely on developing this year's car and putting this car as far ahead as possible, and then once the last race of the season arrives, I will say goodbye to everyone, obviously with a bit of it will be emotional because I've been spending 4 years in this amazing team and I've enjoyed every single second of it. I've enjoyed being teammates with Charles, I've enjoyed, many moments, but with 24 races still ahead, it's impossible to think too much about the future without even knowing how this season is going to play out, without knowing how good this year's car can be and what things we can achieve. So fully motivated, full of motivation, as I said, to extract the maximum out of this year's car and see where that gets us at the end of the year.
Will you be more of a free spirit? You'll be more Team Carlos?
No, I don't think so. Anyone who knows me around the paddock knows I've always been a team player. I've always done the maximum for each team that I've been to, and I've been to a few now. And I think everyone knows that I always put the team first before me. I will keep doing that, especially in a place like Ferrari where I value so much this team and this brand. And, it doesn't mean that if I get opportunities to win and opportunities to score podiums, I will keep fighting for them. But the team spirit will always remain there.
And there's nothing to say you won't return to Ferrari at some point.
Exactly. That's why I'm a big fan of not closing any doors for the future. yes, I'm not going to be in Ferrari in 2025 and onwards. Who knows? With maybe still 10 years ahead in my career, what could happen in the future? For now, I know that I'm not going to be here, and I need to focus in somewhere else and see where I'm going to race next and where I'm going to do my next 3 or 4 years, my next World Championship title fight, where it's going to try and be, and where I'm going to try and be world champion. But I know for sure that's not going to be Ferrari, but all the other options are nearly open, and the future, who knows?
Lewis is incoming from quite a long way out. Threat or opportunity for you, Charles?
Well, I mean, at the end, he's a 7 times world champion and he's got such a huge experience. So I think I see that more as an opportunity.
You think you can learn from him? What can Lewis bring to Ferrari that you don't already have?
I think experience and different points of view, because I've been in Ferrari since 2019 now. And the fact that he's coming from such a strong team, which is Mercedes, with so many years, winning so many races, and obviously the other teams that he has been to before that, brings a lot of experience and a different point of view, which I think is going to be a good thing. But yeah, as I've been saying now since the beginning of the year, I don't want to comment too much on that, because we still have 1 more year to do with Carlos. As he said, we've shared many good moments, other more difficult one as a team, because we weren't as competitive as what we wanted, but we've still got 1 more year and we'll do absolutely everything for it to finish on a positive note.
How do you feel for Carlos?
On one hand, I'm sure it's difficult. On the other, I'm sure it will give him many other opportunities. We've said it many times. I think we have a really good relationship outside the car. We are sharing lots of points of interest, and we've got time to talk about other things other than Formula One. But we both want to win, and as I said, I'm pretty sure that there will be many other doors that will open to him, and that will give him a good opportunity to do just that.
Talking of other activities, I loved the video you did with Sofiane
Yes.
in Paris with your tracks in the music studio. You looked so relaxed and happy doing that.
I loved it because I mean we don't have many days off during a season. During winter we have a bit more of days off. I found 2 days to go to Paris. He's a good friend of mine. I loved his songs, and piano is one of my passion. Since COVID I play a lot of it because I just really enjoy it. Helps me disconnect from racing and to think about other things. And we got into a studio to initially do 1 song together. We ended up with 4 songs together, which again, I really love the process, and it was good to disconnect a little bit from the craziness of the winter, where we spend lots of days in the factory, on the simulator. So music has always been a bit of an escape for me.
Carlos, what's your urgency for sorting out your next World Championship opportunity that you discussed?
I think there's a bit less urgency than what there used to be maybe 6 months ago. I think 6 months ago I had a very clear intention of getting to know my future before the first race. I think there was a plot twist over this last month or 2 months that I didn't expect, or I think the Formula One world in general didn't expect. And since that moment, okay, it was like a reset, a point of, okay, this has changed completely my expectations and what I thought was going to be the plan. And now I have to sit down, analyze all my options, all my opportunities, think about 2025 in the short term, think also about 26, the new regulation change, and hear a bit all the teams that are available, all the teams that potentially want to work with me in the future, and evaluate very carefully where and when it's going to be my best opportunity to fight for a title. And given that, I'm going to give myself a bit of time to talk to everyone, analyze all the options, and then take the right decision, hopefully.
We have an expression in English, I don't know if you have it in Spanish, act in haste, repent at leisure. So
no idea what that means. It sounds complicated.
Yeah, don't hurry a decision, because if you make the wrong decision, you've got too much time to think about it afterwards.
It's a long process, I think, and it's an important contract that I'm going to sign. It's probably going to involve my next 2, 3, 4 years of my career. I'm at I'm going to be 30 this year, so it's important years, I think, in my career. I feel in a very good moment physically and mentally, so I think it's important to take a time.
I've always thought, in the time I've been involved in Formula One, that your peak, the crossover between youth and experience, is somewhere between 28 and 34, although Fernando and Lewis are stretching that out the other side a little bit these days. Do you think you're anywhere near your peak?
It's a very difficult question. I don't know. I still feel young. I still feel like I've got many years ahead of me in Formula One. At least I hope so. And I feel like I'm still learning every year. So to know exactly when the peak will be, it's difficult until you get there. But I feel young and still really good. And I love what I do, which is super important. And I think I'll probably stop the day I stopped. I don't have that fire within me whenever I get inside the car.
I think when you talk to Luis or Fernando, they say they're near their peak or at their peak at nearly 40 or 42, like is Fernando, no? So I think sport has changed a lot over the last few years. And when you see people performing at their best at 19, 20, but then performing at the best at 40, especially in a discipline like ours that is so special, it's not a pure athleticism like 100-meter run or anything that is super athletic. It involves skill, reflexes, but it also involves a lot of experience, a lot of smart to manage every situation. So I think you will only know when was your peak once you retire. You'll look back and say, this was my peak. You know, when I was, maybe in case of Luis or Fernando, 38, or maybe they think they were faster at 24, 25, who knows. I think this you can only analyze once the career is finished and you look back at yourself and you tell yourself, yeah, I think there I was at my peak.
The history of Formula One suggests there's always a car and driver combo dominating, whether it was Fangio, whether Jim Clark, Senna in a McLaren, Schumacher in a Ferrari, Mansell in a Williams. Obviously, we've got Max and Red Bull. Now, what do you two have to do to be the dominant factor in Formula One?
Oh, of course, there's a lot of work. As I was saying earlier, I think Fred is going through this process of reorganizing the team the way he wants it internally, especially for the future developments of the car, and to have a clear vision. For me, this is the most important thing. At the beginning of last season, it was a very difficult situation because, as I was saying, we had a very inconsistent car, and there it's very difficult for the engineer to actually focus on the main weakness of the car, because it's just a very inconsistent car. So you will get a huge oversteer and then a huge understeer. So just to focus a lot more as a team and to have a very clear vision and to all be on board this vision. And then once you achieve that, I really believe that the gains are coming very quickly. And that's exactly what we are trying to achieve at the moment.
I think, yeah, similar, but I think just to put it in a more simple way, I think first of all, you need to find yourself a car that is within a tenth, around the tenth faster than the fastest car. You know, then you're talking now about being the fastest car on track and faster than the Red Bull or a tenth of the Red Bull. And then there's the team factor, how you execute pit stops, how you execute strategy, how do you deliver under pressure situations, qualifying laps, starts, pit stops, etc. No, and I think first you need to put yourself in that bracket. If you're 2 tenths off, 3 tenths off, it's very difficult to beat right now Max and Red Bull. And I think no one's been within a tenth of Red Bull in race pace last year pretty much at any point. We've always been 2-3 tenths per lap, 4 tenths lower. The only race that we felt like we had that, I think, was a bit in Singapore, where they were on the back foot, and in Vegas, that unfortunately I couldn't be there with Charles to battle them. And then once you're there with them, you could see we got front row. Unfortunately, we both couldn't start in the front row. You had the pit stops, the strategy, the safety car. With the two cars, you can split the strategy a little bit, and then suddenly you have put Red Bull under pressure. And right now, no one barely could do that last year. This year, we're going to try. And in the future, when I move to another team, I'm going to try the same with the next team.
So no golden bullet, just the incremental improvements.
Correcto.
Have a great season.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Martin.
Thank you.